Despite the workout consistency, the composition of the body is not accurate.
That mostly happens because they're not training hard enough. People are either under-fueling or over-fueling themselves. And that's probably because bodybuilding has sort of spoiled the meaning of fitness. Most people are not getting on that bodybuilding stage, but we end up training like bodybuilders and we end up falling for the bulking and cutting myths that doesn't apply to us.
Do you think it's easily possible to achieve a fat loss and a muscle gain, like simultaneously?
This is what's called body recomposition.
Recomposition.
There can be 3 scenarios. All 3 are possible. Only the super advanced trainees are the ones who are going to find it hard.
What's the body recomposition protocol?
I generally recommend to people, it's one very simple one to follow. It's called
This is really a problem that I see in a lot of people who train consistently, right? Are eating to some extent in deficit as per their knowledge, right? And training consistently. When I say consistently, 3 to 5 times a week, could be minimum 3, maximum 5. But despite the workout consistency, they're generally not happy with how they look.
Yeah.
You know, like the way they would want to fit into certain clothes, or they would the way they would ideally want to look in front of the mirror, aesthetically not very happy. So somewhere the fat muscle is not the ratio is
people are training hard,
disproportionate,
but they don't look like someone who exercises.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Like the composition of the body is not accurate.
Correct. I think that mostly happens because a lot of times, most people, in fact, they don't know how to set the right intensity. They're not training hard enough. While they feel they're training hard enough, but they're not. So they need right kind of guidance and training age and things like that. So that's one reason. Second, people are either under-fueling or over-fueling themselves. And that's probably because of, the bulking and the cutting myth that has existed in the fitness industry forever. And our fitness industry, for, whatever reason, has also been shaped by the days of bodybuilding in the past. And I really feel that bodybuilding has sort of spoiled the meaning of fitness for the entire industry, because in reality, most people are not getting on that bodybuilding stage, but we end up training like bodybuilders, and we end up falling for the bulking and the cutting myths that apply to a bodybuilder. I have nothing against the sport.
Yeah.
But people like us, in general, who train for looking a certain way, who train for some sort of performance and, being active and having a lot of energy in life, that doesn't apply to us. In fact, there was a research done where researchers overfed a group of athletes by 600 calories every day. And what they found out, compared to another group that was freely eating, the group that was structurally eating 600 more calories on top of their maintenance requirement every day, they significantly gained a lot of that weight from fat. So while they bulked up, they gained weight, but they gained a lot of fat. So most people will never need to get onto that bulking phase or that cutting phase. And an approach where they can build muscle, they can also lose/preserve fat is going to work for them better. But there are certain protocols that people need to understand. It's not just about being in a caloric deficit.
Exactly.
Whether you're in a deficit, how much deficit, whether you're at your maintenance calories, or you have to maybe end up maintaining a caloric surplus, a mild caloric surplus for some time, depends on your body type and your goals at the moment. We'll talk about it. And the third thing I feel is people are not prioritizing sleep enough. And that has a lot of impact on your body composition. Basically, the amount of fat and muscle you carry, despite your training history, how much ever you can push and hammer yourself at the gym. But if you're not sleeping properly, not prioritizing timely sleep, then it can just go in the wrong direction.
In the wrong direction. I agree on the sleep part the most, actually. I feel like that's really the foundation. But I've also noticed I don't know, especially amongst the women, right? Men, of course, thrive on more muscle and all of that. But I'm also noticing now amongst a lot of women, the obsession for muscle, right? Like
Yeah.
you want a lot of definition and
Yeah.
and it's amazing. I'd say it's a great
That's
obsession.
yeah.
But at the same time, you're also obsessing over dropping the fat. But do you think it's easily possible to achieve a fat loss and a muscle gain like simultaneously?
Technical terms, this is what's called body recomposition. This is a relatively newer concept in the scheme of body training for a certain type of body composition. If you look at it mathematically, there can be three scenarios. One, you are shredding fat and just maintaining the same amount of muscle. You're just preserving muscle, but you are dropping fat. So when you look at percentages, it will be a recomped value.
So you're going to drop the fat,
Yes.
but keep the muscle exactly as is.
Try to
try to
preserve it as much as you can, but your focus is primarily dropping the fat. And your focus is to make sure that you don't end up losing muscle in that process.
Yeah.
It's also, you can also say that's the cutting. Colloquially, you can say that is what cutting, proper cutting could be. Second, you minimize fat gain and you try to gain as much muscle as you can in that process. When I spoke about bulking, you gain muscle, but you also end up gaining a lot of fat. When you want to gain as much muscle as possible, as fast as you can, probably need it for a bodybuilding show, maybe that is the way to go. But in general, we don't need to do that. So you try and minimize fat gain and maximize muscle gain, staying in those boundaries. So again, when you look at the percentages, you will find a recomped value. In colloquial terms, people also call it lean bulk. Would have heard this term a lot of times on the internet. And third is you gain muscle and you drop fat at the same time. Okay. Now, all three are possible, but what is needed for a certain individual is to just sit down and identify what is your goal at the moment. Let's say someone's like already on the leaner side, 8 to 12% body fat for a male, 18 to 20% body fat for a female. It means that they're already, looking quite lean. Now, if they want to recomp, their primary focus has to be the second one that I spoke about: build more muscle, minimize fat gain. And in which case your training approach and your nutrition approach will look slightly different. Whereas if someone's already on the heavier side, right, 20+% body fat for a male, if that's the case, then their main focus has to be dropping body fat and maybe preserving muscle or even gaining muscle if it works for them. And for people who are on the heavier side, it's very possible, in fact it's inevitable for them to gain muscle and lose fat through the stress that training puts on them. So what I'm essentially trying to say is sit down, identify what your goal is, because that's going to define your training approach and your nutrition approach in the recomp scheme of things.
Yeah, because you can't have like the one size fits all approach.
Exactly.
If you're choosing a goal from these three buckets.
Yeah, you can't be randomly training. Recomposition is, even though it's not a very complicated concept, it's a little, there's a fine line. You're walking on a very thin line where you have to be a little more precise. You have to be a little more calculated. Rather than, when you are just randomly training, trying to work very hard, and which also sometimes becomes the reason why people are not seeing the results that they want to see.
So let's talk about this category of lose fat and build muscle, right? Because I feel like a lot of us are in that bracket. Now, what do you think are the conditions that make that possible, lose fat and build muscle? Like, who are the people who can first look at that?
So I think, first of all, it's most people.
Most of us.
90-95% of people will fall into the bracket where they can achieve body recomposition, where they can build muscle and lose fat at the same time physiologically. And also in a very sustainable manner. It's only the highly, highly trained individuals who've reached their genetic potential with respect to training and muscle gain who will find it almost impossible to achieve recomposition. And that's a very rare species. It's not very easy to find those people who have reached their genetic
but
potential.
When you say reach that max potential, right? So we are basically identifying that through a body composition analysis, a DEXA scan and stuff.
You identify through a body composition analysis, you will know what is the amount of proportion of lean mass to fat mass
Correct.
that you carry.
Correct.
Your genetic potential is basically to do with your training history, your training age. If you have trained hard for like many years, I mean, there's no sure shot way of saying that, you've reached your genetic potential of muscle gain.
Correct.
But even after doing everything right, you're not able to easily gain muscle, then you know that you've hit your genetic potential. Now, coming back to your question that who can achieve recomposition?
Yeah.
Number one, it's people who are new to lifting, new to weight training, because there's a phenomenon called newbie gains that kick in. Your muscles are hyper responsive to the stress of training and lifting, and at that point in time, body recomposition is almost inevitable. However you're eating,
exactly,
you will still gain muscle because you've started to lift weights, and you've started to challenge your muscles. So people who are new to training. Second, overweight and obese individuals, for them also body recomposition is highly possible, and if they start lifting weights, if they start focusing a little bit on nutrition, they will see fat loss and muscle gain in no time from when they start training. So people who are overweight and obese will see body recomposition for sure. Third, detrained people. Maybe you're someone who's been training hard, but you've taken a break for whatever reason. Injuries happened or life happened, and you got off training for a long time and you've become detrained now. What happens then is your muscle memory kicks in and you end up gaining muscle back really fast. Your cells are also responsive to the stimulus of fat loss through your nutrition, so you are able to achieve recomp quite fast. Like I said, only the super advanced trainees are the ones who are going to find it hard to see body recomposition.
You will put me in that category?
No, I don't know, because you've never trained, you've never done full proper hypertrophy training. You've been a very...
No, remember we did that together briefly once upon a time.
For a few months, right? We did, and you started gaining a lot of muscle.
Lot
of muscle back then, because your training style has been very different. You've done a lot of CrossFit, which is work capacity oriented. Exactly. Now you're doing high rocks, which is again work capacity oriented. You've done a lot of cardio, you've done marathons. So all of them are very performance related. You've never trained for aesthetics, which I think you should. At least once you need to give that kind of training a shot. And I'm sure you will be able to see, body recomposition quite fast in your training journey, because there is muscle memory for whatever training you do, and you haven't trained, you've not done proper hypertrophy training. Yeah,
because I remember even briefly when we did train, it showed tremendous results. Like gains were so visible. And
exactly. So I think at some point this year, maybe after finishing High Rocks World, I think you should do one season of hypertrophy. Maybe, get a hang of using machines as well if you want to. Not necessary, but that's going to help.
That'll be a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, let's talk about protocol. Now, you've spoken about who can look at this, right?
Yeah.
The different conditions. What's the body recomposition protocol? Like, what should people keep in mind when they approach body recomposition from a training standpoint, nutrition, and everything else?
Yeah. So first things first, lifting weights, that will have the biggest input on your body recomposition goals. You need to be able to apply progressive overload in your training. Your training cannot look the same the entire time.
But a lot of people don't understand the exact concept of progressive overload. I mean, it sounds like you can progressively overload, but there's a protocol there as well, right? When you take it up, when to drop it down, and etc. So maybe we should touch upon a little bit on progressive.
So basically what happens is when you lift weights or you do any kind of exercise, your body and your systems adapt to that kind of stress. But if your workouts keep looking similar, then of course there won't be any change and growth, because your body has already adapted. So when you have recovered from that stress and the body comes back, it becomes stronger than the pre-training levels, and you have to give it incrementally higher stress to make sure that adaptation cycle continues.
Yeah.
Right. And that that's the foundation of the concept of progressive overload. In simple terms, it means that your workouts have to keep becoming more challenging as the body adapts,
Correct.
right? There are multiple ways in which you can do a progressive overload. So let's say you're doing, reps and sets at the gym. You can increase the weight that you're lifting.
Yeah.
You can increase the number of reps. You can slow the speed of movement down, which we call tempo. You can also add intensifier techniques like drop sets, supersets.
Yeah.
Try sets and things like that. So an example of drop set is, let's say you're doing a bicep curl, you did X number of reps with 12.5 kgs. You immediately pick up a 7.5 kg dumbbell and go until failure. Immediately pick up a 5 kg dumbbell, go until failure. So you're dropping the weight, but you keep increasing the stress. So that's one way of doing it. If you're in an environment where you don't have access to a lot of equipment and machinery and things like that, you can also deploy intensifier technique. You can also do a mix and match. One protocol which I generally recommend to people, it's one very simple one to follow, it's called double progression protocol. Assuming we're talking about muscle building as a goal, because we're talking about weight training right now. So in that case, you're going to have to lock some repetition range, and because your goal is muscle building, I'm going to lock it at 8 to 12 repetitions. You can gain muscle at higher than 12.
Yes.
You can gain muscle at even 20, 25, 30 repetitions. But 8 to 12, in my opinion, is the sweet spot, because that's the range where training doesn't become boring. Because if it's too many reps, it ends up it becomes boring. Second, it also doesn't create a lot of DOMs, a lot of soreness. If you go to higher number of repetitions, it'll end up creating a higher amount of soreness.
True.
It's also, I think, great for the mind, because you're able to see yourself lifting more weight at that rep range, and it's also safer. It's not like 1 rep and 3 reps where you're really pushing yourself. So let's lock it at 8 to 12 repetitions. Now assume any movement, bicep curl again, 10 kgs, you're able to do 8 reps today. Now your aim will be to get to 12 repetitions with that weight. So next week, when you come back to a bicep curl, you try and do 9, try and do 10. And when you get to 12, you increase the weight by not more than 5 to 10%. Don't jump it significantly high, because you need to incrementally add the stress.
Correct.
Also, a point to note that this 8 reps to 12 reps has to be at an effort level where you couldn't have done more than 2-3 reps after hitting that rep range. It's not like a weight at which you could have done 20 but you stop at 8 because I said 8 to 12 repetitions. It has to be challenging 8 to 12 repetitions. So once you get to that 12 rep on the same weight, you increase the weight by not more than 5 to 10%, which will get you back to that 8 reps.
8 reps again.
And then you try and increase the reps first, increase the load next.
Same cycle.
Do the same cycle. You keep doing it. At some point, you will reach a threshold where you're not able to increase the weight, or you're not able to increase the reps. You're not able to see the gains. That is when you need to take a deload. Drop your volume and intensity down by, say, 40-50%. Train easy for 1 week and then start the cycle again.
So what's the duration you would say that you would do a progressive overload for how many months?
In general, I mean, you've got to always do progressive overload, except that 1 or 2 weeks where you're doing a deload which is part of the process. But you lock in a duration. Let's say, in 3 months, you want to get from here to there in terms of the lean mass that you're carrying. And you can break that down in the cycles of 4 to 6 weeks, which means there'll be 2 or 3 such cycles. So let's say you've done 4 weeks, take 1 week of deload, and then start that 4-week cycle again. Can be a little subjective depending upon how your coach is planning, depending upon how you are responding. It cannot be like a 0 and 1 approach, because we're training humans, training individuals, and results look different for different people, depending on the genetics, training history, bunch of things. So I won't be able to put like a number to it, but it'll generally range between 4 to 6 weeks when you want to hit a deload.
Makes sense. I think that's important for
Yeah.
people to understand that it's when should the deload
Yeah.
probably come in
It's when you hit that point where you're not able to make progress
anymore on that
Yeah.
weight. And
That basically means some
movement, yeah.
fatigue has set in and you need to
Now,
de-stress
yeah,
a little bit.
yeah. Now that's your training protocol, right? And progressive overload is the way to go. Now nutrition, again, because everyone's talking about deficit and some of us don't understand exactly how much of a deficit is the right deficit.
Yeah.
It can be too little, it can be too much. There has to be
Correct.
a sweet spot.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And especially when you're talking about body recomposition.
Yeah.
There is, I said before, there is a very thin line that you are walking on. And if you create a massive caloric deficit, you'll end up losing muscle. And
Exactly.
in this phase, you don't want to lose muscle, right? You want to gain muscle, or you want to at least preserve it.
Yeah.
So here's what you do with respect to nutrition. First things first, you find out what your maintenance calories look like. Basically, the number of calories that your body is burning throughout the day.
Every day, yeah.
You can do it on an online calculator. It's pretty simple. TDEE calculator. We can link it in the description. It'll take 3 or 4 minutes to find out your estimated TDEE.
Yeah.
Your TD, the number that it gives you is your maintenance calories. So let's say it comes to 2000 calories for somebody.
Yeah.
What that means is that if this person eats 2000 calories in a day, they will not gain weight, they will not lose weight, they will be able to maintain it.
Correct.
Now, if their goal is to lose weight, they have to eat slightly lesser. If their aim is to gain weight, they have to eat slightly higher. Okay. When it comes to body recomposition, I would suggest mostly you either stay at maintenance calories and keep training hard, keep applying progressive overload, keep doing it for a considerable period of time, track your progress, and you will see recomp if you are following the calorie guidelines. Now, we spoke about goals in the beginning. If your goal is to lose body fat and preserve muscle mass, so you want to drop some weight and you want to make sure that most of that weight drop is coming via body fat. In that case, create a very mild caloric deficit, not more than 10 to 15%, because you want to preserve muscle and you want to drop fat.
Exactly.
For you to drop fat, it will be important to create that caloric deficit unless you are very new to training, right? So 10 to 15%. Someone whose maintenance calories came out to 2000, it'll look like 1700 to 1800 calories in a day. So they're able to create a 200 to 300
deficit,
kind of a caloric deficit. Now it's going to be hard to maintain just that small amount of deficit. So they have to be a little more precise.
Calculations.
Weighing in your food and logging in a calorie tracking app is a good idea until you get a hang of what 100 gram of rice looks like, what 200 grams of chicken looks like. Until you get a hang of it, it's a good practice to track your meals in a calorie tracker. Now, let's say you fall into that category where you want to gain muscle and minimize fat gain, right? Where, you're somebody on the leaner side, you want to look better, which means that will happen only when you start gaining some muscle, but you also don't want to gain fat in that process. Yeah. In that case, for some time, I would say create a caloric surplus of, again, very mild. Don't go into a heavy 1000 calorie surplus.
Like 200.
Those kind of things that happen in the bodybuilding world. Don't do that. And I've done that myself in the past, and I ended up gaining a lot of fat on my belly because of, our body type. Indians, we end up gaining a lot of fat on the belly. So don't make that mistake. Just create a very small caloric surplus. Again, 10 to 15%, and not for a very long period of time. Just do it for maybe 2.5, 3 months. It'll give you enough fuel to gain muscle. A lot of this also has to come from protein. So another condition, once you identify how many calories you're going to be eating, you have to make sure that you're eating sufficient protein so that your muscles get, the fuel to build themselves.
Correct.
Your protein has to be on the higher end during this phase. I would recommend about 2.2 to 2.6 gram per kilogram of body weight, which is a lot of protein, especially for Indians because we are not used to eating so much protein. So my recommendation there is start slow. Just slowly increase, do some progressive overload.
There also.
Even there.
Yeah, because we're not used to eating, and then the body doesn't accept it well, and then you have gut problems and gut distress, and
you
think
start
notice
farting and
that.
burping, start annoying everybody around you. So just do it slow,
your
do it
body.
do it one step at a time.
Yeah, I think we'll need to link this as well, or rather give them in the cheat sheet of how to plan the deficit and maybe the surplus.
We'll create a cheat sheet for this and link it in the description. One more thing to note here is, while I said 2.2 to 2.6 gram of protein per kilogram body weight, that's a lot of protein. So you don't have to like always stay on that kind of a diet. There will be a point where you're happy with how the amount of muscle mass that you've put on and you want to maintain it. Keep training hard and get to balanced nutrition. In general, the protein calculation that we do is considering lean body mass, and not the body weight. But I just normalize this to body weight because it becomes easier for us to calculate. So if I say, for a 100 kg individual, calculate X amount of protein for the lean mass, then you have to first do a body composition and then say this is my lean mass and then do the protein calculation. So I just normalize it. 2.2 to 2.6 gram per kg of body weight will work for most people in this phase. For people who are highly obese, they need to look at the target weight and then do the calculation. Because if you're, let's say, 20-25 kgs overweight, then your protein calculation will really shoot up. So you need to look at your target weight and then do the protein calculation. So if your target weight is 75 and you're at 100 right now, calculate on 75, not on 100.
It's actually simple, but if you don't do the right math, then...
So we'll make this available in the cheat sheet.
Exactly.
This is too much to process and absorb. It may sound simple to you and me.
But not for someone who's probably doing it for the first time.
So we'll put this in the cheat sheet so that it's there for our listeners.
Yeah. Now, let's now talk about I feel like sleep becomes super critical for fat loss, right? And this is, of course, I think my experience of sleep deprivation and fat gain only comes from motherhood, because all new moms are sleep deprived, and hence the fat loss process becomes harder. Otherwise, I've never really had to, deal with the sleep concerns and because of that fat gain. But I'm noticing a lot of women also, especially in their 30s, right? Who do not get good quality sleep, but train hard and are still on deficit, gain fat.
Yeah.
Right?
That'll happen.
Yeah, I think we should talk about that to give them...
You spoke about mothers. There are a lot of other stressors, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But even in general, for someone who's just training for body composition, but not sleeping enough, it is a problem.
Yeah.
There was, in fact, a research on this topic, where researchers divided people in two different groups. One group was allowed only 5 hours of sleep per night, and the other group was properly sleeping. Both the groups entered a caloric deficit. Now, because both the groups entered a caloric deficit, when they checked the body composition again, both the groups had lost weight because they were maintaining a caloric deficit. But the group that was sleep deprived lost 85% of their weight from lean mass. And the group that was sleeping well lost 83% of the weight from fat mass.
Exactly.
So that's the difference. You're doing everything
right.
Same. Both the groups were doing
with training and food and everything.
And everything. The difference was sleep, and that just changed the entire dynamic around body composition, and that changes everything around how you look. So coming back to the first question, this could be another strong lever.
We should probably even link that study.
We will. So any study that I've quoted, we'll put that.
Yeah, we'll link it. Exactly. I mean, we are supposedly the second largest sleep deprived country.
Yeah.
Brand Wakefit had done a study when they were launching a certain mattress, by the way. And that's how I read about it. And then I'm like, I'm not surprised, because we're always prioritizing work and social life over sleep. And then a whole lot of us are also, putting in our training despite being sleep deprived, and then trying to lose weight simultaneously. Where that weight loss is happening, they're not keeping a track of. But
correct. And lack of sleep, like while we spoke about body composition, it's not just that, it's like
Yeah.
many other things. In my case, and you've seen that I wasn't able to sleep properly because of, some stress here and there and whatnot. But I was still hammering myself at the gym every single day, and I paid the price in the form of an injury.
Yeah.
We don't know where. Now people ask me, how do you get injured? Doing a heavy deadlift? I like, no, not a heavy deadlift. Maybe I got triggered while doing a heavy deadlift or whatever.
But it
But
was big.
injury happened because I wasn't recovering well. I wasn't giving myself enough shut-eye. That's the point.
Yeah. I mean, it's exactly where the body recovers, right?
Yeah.
Your mind and your body, like you're just shutting the whole system. I mean, our body is just like, it's a machinery. It's like a factory with a lot of machines. And if you don't shut down the factory, how are your machines going to have longevity? Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So sleep being the bottom of the pyramid,
Yeah.
the most
It's
critical.
the foundation.
It's the foundation.
Yes, foundation.
Yes, amazing. So this is great information for everyone who wants to lose fat and gain muscle, and identify exactly, where they're probably missing the link. It could be sleep, it could be nutrition, it could be the training protocol. And I think we'll link all of them. We'll put all of this in a sheet to make it easier.
Yeah.
Anything else?
No, I think that's it. Train hard, sleep well.
Sleep well, train hard.
Sleep well, train hard, fuel
right.
yourself sufficiently, don't undereat, don't overeat.
Yeah. And I think the whole process of fat loss and muscle gain isn't an arduous one. It just needs a structured approach.
Yeah, once you get a hang of it, then you just know. As Hrithik Roshan says, once you know the address,
Yeah.
then you will reach there.
Yeah.
But the hard part is you don't know the address. Then what do? You're just shooting in all kind of direction. So he's done transformations multiple times for different movies, right?
Yeah.
And he says, I've done it once. Now I know what the address is, and I can do it again, and I can even do it better.
Very true. Yeah, you can do it better once you've
Because now
identified.
you know where do you have to go.
Awesome. Thank you, Rishabh Thalang.
Thank you very much, Shwe Shetty.